said it is now possible to communicate affordably with one person at a time or with a small group, I knew that something dramatic had happened. We call the process micro-marketing. We didn't coin the phrase, of course, but I think you'll see that Enfront's version of micro-marketing is different. And we define micro-marketing as person-to-person communication. So it isn't just a recipient, it's about who it's from, and in most cases that'll be you or your sales team. So person-to-person communication with those important to success and stressing both relationship building and revenue building. Our basic idea is an online communication system that is ready for an individual to communicate personally with those important to success. So ingredients, as you'll see, include that it's online, on demand for convenience, that content is integrated in the system, and the contact data is actionable. And we've put all that together over a period of time into this system. And let me stress here, too, I'm not per se pitching this system, although, of course, it's nice if you like it. But basically, this will make more sense out of what we talk about going forward in terms of multi-touch, multimedia. So, again, the idea is that this is driven by you as communicator or your designated communicator or communicators. And in our case, we have we're multimedia. We have two versions of the postcard, a letter module, an email module, and then a three-dimensional mail module that is, I think Windows is going to be bothering us here. Excuse me for that. So that's the at your fingertips lineup of product, and then again designed to target any individual or group to be delivered either immediately or at any predefined future date, to have self-reminder emails embedded for those times when people are more important than technology and touches, and then everything handled, production and distribution handled by Enfront. So that's the engine that constitutes our version of on-demand multimedia capability. So then we had that classic question. A lot of this was technology and some gee whiz stuff. It was a lot of fun. But it's the old question, now we have a hammer, what's our nail? And so as we went to work with what our nail would be, we began with just one of the realities that we all face today, and today, especially today's online world. And that's just not picking on anybody here. This just signifies that it is a very, very noisy, very crowded space that we're in. And so, so the whole idea of e-noise is just a factor that we're all dealing with, obviously. What e-noise means is that more than before, certainly, that multiple touches are required for relationship traction. I always enjoy the expert debate on this. Most people are saying at least 5 touches for traction. There was a book, I think, about 7, Magic 7. I've heard as high as 11. And I think the main point, because this obviously varies by the kind of communication you're doing and stage of relationship, a lot of things. But the key thing is just that it is a if I wasn't experiencing this with our friends at Microsoft, I would not believe it. But the main point is that the touches are well more than one, and if so, that means that we're doing something like this. We're keeping track of dates, we're keeping track of kinds of touches. We may have follow-up with prospects here and clients here. We may have a drip campaign going. And since we are mere mortals, it's little wonder that follow-up doesn't happen on actually statistics say that 80% don't follow up as often or well as they mean to. The second factor, second trend in our marketplace today, without any question at all, is that email, because of its enormous popularity, is therefore beginning to experience just overexposure. Some call it glut. We are not negative about email at all. We have it, as you saw in our module, and so we believe in email. But undeniably, read rates, attention spans, especially in some kinds of communication, are declining. And as that happens, then a void is created in readership, and alternative media becomes what we call just a requirement. 5 years ago, we debated which is better, email, mail, whatever. Today, we just say that alternative media is a requirement, not a debate, because of, here we go, because of this reality in email marketing. This is always a rock-solid starting point for deciding how to approach using a marketing tool as well. I say jokingly that it might be actually profound truth that if a room was full of marketers, and in a way it is here on this webinar, that the only thing we might agree on would be that the foundation of success, of long-term success, is building and maintaining loyalty. So I think that's a safe assumption. And then turning that idea into application to micro-marketing, what we really have is an absolutely classic individual journey. When we look at our data, see our customer data, and we look at it on a spreadsheet or some kind of a graph, there's some tendency to think loyal customers are just kind of a thing that happens as part of the bell-shaped curve of relationships. In fact, every single loyal client we have started once as a stranger to us, became a loyalist to us, and along the way had a variety of experiences that must have been mostly good for them to make it. But it's a classic journey, and the reason that it's classic for micro-marketing is that if you break up the process into its stages, we have the tool, or the framework, as we'll show in just a minute, for micro-marketing. This, of course, is lifecycle marketing. There's a variety of versions of it, and so we don't claim any kind of propriety here. But we will claim that the designations we have on this chart are useful in thinking about how to do follow-up. So we begin down at the blue end with what we call strangers. And a stranger is a person that for all practical purposes doesn't know you exist in terms of any consideration of you as a potential business partner. Doesn't mean you've not ever passed each other in at a trade show. It just means no consideration of using you as a business partner, business relationship. So that's the stranger. The acquaintance, not yet a prospect, but useful differentiation here, especially in this world we're in of heavy networking and heavy social media. An acquaintance we define as someone that we've now met. We might be connected on LinkedIn, business cards have traded hands, flashed or shown the trade show badge, and we have captured data. So we now have an acquaintance. But the acquaintance, although they know what we do more or less, is not actively considering doing business with us at this point. We move then to prospect, which are stages, of course, of in consideration of doing business, maybe cool, maybe warmer, maybe hot. And the purpose of this stage, from our standpoint, is to advance to a new client. If we have a new client, of course, our goal should be a repeat client, and then steady loyalty building to the point that we have advocates that help do our marketing job for us. So again, life cycle marketing in and of itself, not something you haven't thought about before, but let's turn it now into micro-marketing thinking. And this is why I say we'll be expanding the idea of what we mean by follow-up. Because if we think about a multi-touch world, if we introduce ourselves somehow to a target ideal stranger or a client, we call the stranger just a target ideal client, don't know us yet, but doesn't know us yet, but one of these days will. So one touch won't do it. Just simply won't do it. And so therefore, if we want to meaningfully impact somebody who doesn't know us yet, almost certainly it takes follow-up to earn some kind of share of mind. When we meet a new person, whatever that means, and let's just call this an example. You're meeting me, I indirectly will be meeting you, and so now we know each other. You know what I do, I'll know hopefully soon basically what you do, and so we now are acquaintances. The goal of acquaintance, of course, is to move to actively interested in doing business, and that's a process almost certainly multi-touch. My personal high is 11 on follow-ups with somebody to get them to actually meet with me on the basis that I felt they were a legitimate prospect. And so again, follow-up meaning multiple touches to move the relationship. In this case, is you're just part of this world we're in. We then move our prospect to a new client. Here, there's a strange void in American marketing. I've talked now to literally thousands of people, small businesses, and it's an odd void that people don't follow up with their own new clients. The most logical or obvious thing to do is just say thank you, which sounds like a courtesy, but the subtlety is to say, A, I'm an unusually client-oriented person, because nobody does it, and B, it's a satisfaction measurement opportunity, and we won't belabor this too much, but we've all, I think, had this experience. If we have a person that's about 40% satisfied, we hear from them because they're screaming. If we have a person that's 120% satisfied, we're moving them at least in the direction of advocate, and that's great. We might hear from them in good ways. If we have a 92% satisfied person, wasn't great, wasn't bad, okay, then we have a very high likelihood of loss of somebody. We've moved this far up the client path just by neglect, because they won't complain. They'll just say, I won't make that mistake again, and somebody else. So there's a great moment here. The bells should, if there's a time to buy a balloon for somebody, it's here. This is a strong indication of advancement toward loyalty. And then, of course, staying in touch with our valued relationships, fundamental, that enormous number of people aren't doing well at all because of inordinate focus down here. And then finally, follow up to maintain memory of value and and to develop upsell, cross-sell, and referral gathering. So we contend this is actually 6 different categories of micro-marketing follow-up. When we go higher up the learning curve of micro-marketing, we also talk about lapsed clients as a way to exercise follow-up, and again, rarely done. In fact, who among us hasn't been invited to a preferred customer sale by somebody that we now hate officially? And so just bad data management and not taking advantage of the opportunity to say, we'd love to have you back, here are reasons that we deserve another try, that kind of thing. This is useful, I think, just as you think about your follow-up campaigns, just follow-up thinking in general. A blitz campaign is designed to move the needle. When we have met someone in say at a networking event, or we have a really, really solid connection on LinkedIn, we should advance that as quickly as possible. I'll talk a little more about that in a second. But we call that a blitz. It usually takes place over days or weeks at the most, and the idea is either to advance the relationship solidly or to secure a sale. So blitz moves the needle. DRIP is part of our concept we're working with called memory of value. What it really says is that this person is high potential to me, whatever that means. They're going to be someday a great client. They're going to buy again someday. And the idea of DRIP is just to maintain memory of value, so when someday comes, you are the choice. So now let's talk about creating more prospects, because here's the thing that I think most of us understand, but it's easy to get off track here. So let's just talk specifically for a minute about LinkedIn's, because that is a common thread here to all of us, and we absolutely love LinkedIn. We think there's just incredible opportunity here. But here's when I first got started, somebody told me that the goal is to get to 500 connections as fast as you can. And so I guess I set about doing that and got most of the way to 500 connections. And what I learned pretty quickly was that I had about 380, that's low, about 460 people that I didn't even remember their names anymore, much less why I was doing, why we were linked. And therefore, I had been focusing here without specific regard to the fact that the goal is here. So, so to whatever extent social media waylays our thinking and causes us to not work on the next logical step, of course, I think that's something to give careful consideration to. At the same time, though, what a great place to have a chance to make new connections. So again, the goal is to go to the next level, and then the two reasons for that, and this is I think, yeah, I like graphics to explain things. The whole world of social media, if we're not careful, is just like this. This is the metaphorical shallow ground. There's quite a few plants on it. The practical matter, the odds that anything grows, very low because these plants are not being nurtured. This metaphor, I think it's a different metaphor in a way, but also very applicable. The world is, this is a Tokyo subway station, but the world is moving so fast. You know, people are walking by us so fast. Trains are leaving so fast that if we don't at the right moment in time seize the opportunity, then the same thing happens. It's just an opportunity lost. Not because the connection wasn't good, the fit might have been great, but just the world blurs by. And I think we all have that experience of whether it's a pile of business cards somewhere or a load of connections that we don't have any connection with. The world blurring by is a real reality. So powerful use, and here we're just showing one of our products, but again, this truth doesn't matter whether it's our product, whatever, something you're doing yourself, but the idea that there's a serious effort when the partnership feels right to move the relationship to the next level, I think is just common sense, and again, without it, I think the odds that suddenly your 301st acquaintance suddenly comes to life is just not likely, because they're busy working on their next batch as well. So the idea is, in this case, is outside the medium touches. Does not have to be. There's a variety of ways to keep in some kind of contact with inside LinkedIn, but I think taking it out with alternate media, here if you can read it, it's worth a talk. Please consider this my giant business card, would be a way to try to move the relationship to the next level. So, so the earning prospects is creatively finding ways just to move those people that we meet to the next level. Now let's talk about what to do with a delaying prospect. Now the idea here is that we're working with a prospect, and this may be multi-touch for sure. Let's consider orange here, although my arrow's off a smidge, as where we've made our presentation. And we've made our presentation with the fervent hope that they buy. So in a lot of businesses, whether it's a webinar, a trade show, online, I'm sorry, a showroom, whatever it is, there's a formal moment of presentation and an attempt by the salesperson, if we're following some of the good stuff that Michael and the other partners here preach, we have made a good shot at closing that sale right then. But It happens often in this marketplace that the person, for whatever reason, delays. We now have what we call an at-risk prospect, and weekly, at least, most sales training and all tells us that we need to stay in touch, follow up with that prospect. But I'd say, from my experience, that about 3/4 of all follow-up is really, did you decide yet-ish. You know, just touching base, did you decide yet, to see if you decided yet. And if that's the extent of follow-up with somebody that's got good reason to delay, about the second or third try, you get that fateful comment, Bill, you know, I really do know your phone number, and when I do decide, you would have been the first to know. So did you decide yet doesn't get it. People talk about handwritten notes as a follow-up. That doesn't get it here because they already know you're a nice person. The key now is that they remember why we're the right decision. So we've worked with, again, we don't claim to have created it, but the idea of memory of value as the approach to converting at-risk prospects, we think is, again, just worth thinking about, and to the extent it applies to you, put it to work. So this is the scenario, though. This is IMA gold here. We put IMA on Decision Mountain, often at considerable expense when you add together advertising, promotion, per click, whatever we did to get IMA to the point that she's a legitimate prospect. So that was expensive, and we've made our presentation. We did a good job with the presentation, and at that point, the perception in IMA's mind is higher than the price. That's good. And that's why we should try to close, obviously, because it never gets any better than that if we did a good job with our presentation. Then life begins. Hours pass and it begins, but now we have not the relevant issue isn't what we said during the presentation, whatever all presentation meant. It's what IMA remembers about what we said. So hence the term memory of value. And in general, memory of value simply goes south. It can go at different rates depending on a lot of things, but it's going to go south. And when it goes south, two things begin to happen. Now, if anybody that we're talking to today has somebody that doesn't have a competitor that's cheaper than you are, I'd like to hear about it and figure out what business you're in. Because I think virtually everybody works in a world where somebody, even if they're idiots, is cheaper. So memory of value goes down to our price, our deal is in trouble. As it approaches their price, we are in serious trouble, and if it goes below, if our memory of value is below somebody else's price, meaning also their memory of value, then we're sunk. So the idea that we can't let memory of value drop while we have an at-risk prospect, I think, is just common sense, but again, fairly rarely discussed. And then the idea, of course, is that if we follow up well with memory of value content, not did you decide, not here's thinking of you card, memory of value content, then we have a chance to reverse the memory of value issue, but far better, of course, this is defense, is just to stay on offense the whole time and keep our memory of value up comfortably higher than our price until it's time for the decision. So we call that, again, memory of value. And here's the magic's the wrong word, the leverage might be the right word. Most people operate on some variation of 50 suspects, 10 prospects, 10 IMAs, 3 sales. And then they go back and get 50 more suspects and put 10 more people on the mountain, make 3 sales. What this idea says is it isn't the 7 that we didn't sell the lowest hanging fruits, certainly the highest ROI use of dollars in American marketing. Here, this is using the same point, but this is as we get into micro-marketing at higher levels, another way to think about this, again, you can do it with your own campaigns, whatever they look like, but think about varying the campaign intensity by your perceived value of the recipient. This applies to networking, maybe better even than here, because if we got her on the mountain, that's pretty high value. But when we network, we all know now let's do 10. Now we've got 10 business cards or 10 connections. Out of the 10, 7 are shamelessly selling to us. We could probably safely not worry about them. 3 out of the 3 that are left, 2 are decent meetings. You may have some potential. And then with a little luck, we've got 1 that is that, wow, I'm glad I was there because that person and I are going to become good partners at some point. So again, the value of recipient clearly goes from 0 to very, very, very high. In micro-marketing thinking, you'll have your campaigns, your multi-level touch points that are calibrated to the perceived value of your relationship. So just one of the techniques that are possible using the idea of micro-marketing. Another one, the next idea is to be ready with the next campaign so that, just for example, now here we're talking auto-responding in a bit. Some of what we do here is a lot like auto-responding, except that in general it's much more hands-on, much more person-to-person. But the same idea applies. If we have an acquaintance that calls us and say, man, I loved what you sent me or what you said to me, let's talk. And now we think we've got a prospect. We move from our prospect or from our acquaintance campaign to our prospect campaign. Here we're saying we earned the business, we moved our welcome, our onboarding campaign, and so forth. So the idea of micro-marketing follow-up is also that you continue to adapt as you move through the relationship stages. This is, just to make this a little less abstract if it might be, excuse me, this is a real live campaign that we worked with a company in Massachusetts on. This one was for introduction to a target ideal stranger or clients, a stranger who didn't know them yet. But here is a big, big key, and again, this applies to some of our good partners in the hub. The key here is research to doing this. I think we've all had the bad feeling where we just shot off a pretty much blind direct mail campaign, whatever it was, to a poorly qualified list. And that, I think it's safe to say, unless you've got money to send $1 million, that just isn't going to turn numbers in this day and age. And therefore, research so that this is going to truly well thought out recipients is key. In this case, this partner of ours had 11 different verticals that they were approaching, things like medical, not-for-profit, educational, and so forth. So there were campaigns designed for each one. Mostly just modifications for just the content parts. But in any case, a postcard went at day 0, a postcard gift, a clever deal with a coffee stick in it at day 3, talking about let's have a cup of coffee, if not literally, figuratively. Then about content, more about content. And then absolute key, because you are the most important person in your follow-up campaign, a reminder email at day 14 that reminds what happened in the campaign and suggests what can be done in the follow-up phone call, visit, whatever follow-up means. If we have sales managers today, this can be reminder email to your salesperson, of course, but it can also remind about, or it can have talking points and things not to say, whatever you want to do, so it can be a sales management tool. But the main thing, again, is multi-touch. If we had email addresses, and often you don't in an initial campaign, then it would be right at the front of the list. Email is an important part of the campaign, and follow-up being, or a personal follow-up being key. Now, again, no matter what approach people use for follow-up, here, this is just absolutely key. We are all busy. I think the flip side, or one of the just realities of this busy world is that so are we. Juggle too many balls. Most of us are small business people of some kind. The ball juggle is just part of reality. If infrastructure isn't really ready to make good, to organize well, then here sits marketing, or this kind of follow-up marketing, just firmly on the back burner. So the whole idea that you create disciplined infrastructure, again, just absolutely key. And it's best if that infrastructure includes some automation. One of the people we've worked with for 2 or 3 years, he said to me, "You have no idea how much satisfaction I get knowing that while I sleep," because in our case the campaigns trigger at 1 a.m. Eastern, "while I sleep, people are receiving important communication from me that A, I wouldn't have done, and B, sometimes I didn't even remember that I launched it until I get my reminder emails." So, so if it's automated, that's good. If it isn't, just disciplined is the key, and probably no point I could make would be more important than that. So that is the observation from here on the follow-up. And now, Michael, I guess we can open to questions.
Yep, really good stuff, Bill. And let's see, looks like we don't have any questions that I haven't already answered and that really aren't necessarily discussion worthy. Or should I say there's not a lot of discussion for them. And well, if you have any questions, feel free to, there's a questions or window. Feel free to put those in, and we can bring them to the group. Really good stuff, Bill. Looks like we don't have any questions. Is there anything else? You know, Bill, you've provided some good insight here. Any other details on your company or your offering and how it works in terms of if somebody wanted to use your services to help them to execute in this area?
Yeah, we're operating almost classically software as a service. So we have a monthly fee that covers the email automation and and we have an integrated data management tool that's built in. So all of that goes with a fee that most people find surprisingly slow or small. And and then as is common, it varies by user. So 1 to 3 is our level 1 setup, and it goes up from there. We're about $25 a month, though, for our small business module. Content is an important part of the question in our setup, and for many of the people listening, no doubt, there's a source of content already. There's a variety of great content sources in the hub, and so there's often content put together that tells your story, ready to become value in your micro communication. Enfront provides that as a service, but well more than half of our clients are using either themselves or a hired content provider. Our data manager, and we might talk about quickly, we coexist nicely with CRMs in a variety of ways, and people use the Enfront system for those really top-tier opportunities, the ones that are live now, or we want to be extra special, sure to be in touch with. So we coexist with data management setups, but the data manager that we have is a fairly robust CRM in its own right. It logs all touch points automatically. There's places for notes and adding your own touch points. We have, and it also drives the the campaign features directly. So it's simply select a name from Data Manager, link it to the campaign, and out it goes. So we've got a very friendly user interface. But in general, though, what we like to do is just have a good first discussion that's really discovery, because once somebody understands the capability of the system, then it may or may not fit, and it may not. We work in areas where there's high value per client. We don't sell brooms and rakes, is one of the things we say. We tend to work in places where there's competitive vulnerability to alternatives, and so there's a decision cycle where the follow-up is important. And so really getting together and just discussing needs and goals is a strong part of what we do. And we've learned that if we successfully tell somebody about this whole thing and we get people to say, wow, that's great, there's a fairly high likelihood that we've sold an exercise bike, because it's just too much to get your head around all at once. So the thing we've learned that really is much more like reality, because it takes a while to get this whole idea as any part of ongoing a big picture strategy. But I rarely talk to somebody that doesn't have either an opportunity missed or an almost smack your head with or smack your forehead, realizing I'm not staying in touch with key clients on any kind of a steady basis or whatever it is. And so often in our startup with a new client, we're picking one of these categories of follow-up and beginning there, and then as results turn positive, which we're confident they will, then we can talk about other applications. So again, we just encourage, of course, a LinkedIn connection's fine, but phone call, email is great, and then we just have a short discovery session.
Hey, Bill, there's a question regarding the postcards being sent out, and I'm not sure if I completely understand the question here, but if they're asking if you send the postcards out via email if addresses aren't available. So maybe there's some clarity needed there around the postcards being sent.
Yeah, that's that reality, of course, is big both ways, because there's a lot of people that have collected emails religiously and have not worked on physical addresses, and then other people don't have email. So it's a really good question. Now, the short answer to the question is that there would be the content can be shared between the postcard and the email, and there would be either a single touch point, or it could be a campaign that's likely titled with or without email. And so if there is an email, the campaign might go something like, it might go all email, but it might go something like email, postcard, email, follow-up. And that would be a multi-touch campaign with just one try at a physical presence. Or obviously, if we don't have an email at all, then it's more like the one I showed. But the content is just developed. In either case, there's a template in the system, a completely predefined version of that email and a predefined version of the card. And so we just build the campaign so it can adapt to what address we have.
Okay. There's a question, sorry, lost my place here. There's a question around what's the best approach in time when a customer is going to make a decision months from now? So, you know, I guess it's one of those cases where the customer says, well, or the prospect says, you know, we'll probably do something in 6 months. So what do we do for, is there a way to do a multi-touch with that time frame?
Yes, for sure. If there was one answer to that question, I'd be a wealthy man today. the reality is that we all know our clients better than any auto system can know them. So the way the Enfront system works, just in its architecture, is that we're saying at any predefined time interval. So the now if we know that that 6 months, say, is the decision cycle, typical decision cycle, then that's good enough. And then we would just say, if I'm in touch monthly, is that good enough? And there again, that might depend on what we know about our competitive environment. Because if we think that competitors all over them, or there's some reason that we need more share of mind, then we would beef up frequency. In general, we say touch monthly, touch an important person where you're maintaining just memory of value monthly, which would suggest something like a 6-touch drip.
Okay. There's a question here of how can we make an email campaign more effective, and we actually had a webinar here specific to email marketing and email campaigns hosted by Craig Klein from Sales Nexus. It's recorded and on the Sales Growth Hub. You may want to check that out at salesgrowthhub.com. I don't know whether you have anything to add to that subject, Bill. I know that email is just one part of your model.
Yeah, in our we don't claim to be. In fact, if we're talking email marketing as an initial client development, then I'd be in touch with Craig for sure. Because what Enfront does with email is make it part of multi-touch follow-up. And as this indicates here, our specialty is the individuals and small groups important to success. Now, a bigger company, of course, can have a lot of prospects, but even they're likely prospects sliced up in 20 verticals or whatever that can be reached by micro-thinking. And so we aren't strong, or don't claim to be strong, in email marketing to target ideal strangers within the absence of multi-touch.
Okay, good.
I'd call Craig.
All righty, let me see here. There's a question, and I don't know if this really applies to the topic here today, but there's a question of how successful is targeting clients during events and conferences. What is the ideal target to close percentage? And I mean, I'll just kind of throw my own thoughts here. I personally think that networking at events from a prospecting standpoint, that's probably one of the best lead gen activities you can do, either as an individual salesperson or as a company. And so those are my 2 cents on that. That should be part of your mix of marketing activities. Email marketing, direct mail, all the stuff that Bill's talked about here today, phone prospecting, and then, of course, gathering prospects from events and conferences, as you asked. And then your question is, what is ideal target to close percentage? I think that's not something that can be just thrown out as a standard number there. You have anything to add to that, Bill? I just wanted to kind of address.
On the event question, when we talk to people who do trade shows, for example, and I've done trade shows. In fact, I have huge admiration for anybody that survives that as a life, because it's just, you talk about a blur. But the absolute key, I think, to trade shows, events, or anything of that type, is the idea of carefully separating the really high potential contacts you make from the mediums, and then the ones that shouldn't clutter your CRM. And when people go wrong on trade shows, they come back and they say, "Wow, I had 350 leads," but that's not true. They had about 250 people filling shopping bags, and they might have 30 leads. and if they're trained to figure out the difference and then follow up accordingly. Now, we might send email that'd be great use of a low-cost medium, and we would, but the follow-up campaign can be based on could be email and then a combination based on that value. So I think that's my only addition to the notion. But Michael, absolutely right. It's a great place where people that you want flock is a good place to be. There's no question. But then earning their attention, bringing it out of just the mass is the real key second step. The deal about target ideal strangers, that Sullivan campaign we did had somebody got 17 people to talk to him out of 25, which we say it and smile when we say it. That had to be a piece of prospecting beyond belief. But the idea that they're doing there, and this might be a thing just to have people or to remember, they weren't going for anything but a cup of coffee in effect. And they're saying that there's a lot of good reason that you should have a cup of coffee with us and let us survey your world. And so they're selling the person from going from stranger to acquaintance, not trying to sell them all the way to active prospect or trying to sell them. And I think a lot of direct mail goes wrong there because it tries to pack in enough stuff that there's a chance of making the sale, but the person doesn't even know they're interested in talking with us yet. So I think the micro idea of stage advancement can be useful and would be the key, no doubt, to that kind of extraordinary response they had. We don't claim anything like that as a result of best practices, but it's a thing that works. And if you get good at the phone message after a clever follow-up, that helps. And there's a lot of ways to add to the touches, but as I said at the start too, great research and then the right goal is the right call to action, the key.
All right. Well, Bill, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to share your knowledge here. This is being recorded, and Bill, if you could put up that last slide I had on the. This is being recorded, and what we do is we post the slides and the recording essentially on the page that you registered from on the Growth Hub site, and we'll include that in the go-to webinar or follow-up email. So you should receive that, I believe, in 24 hours, a link to that page, and like I said, you can get the video and the slides from there. And feel free to contact Bill or us directly if you need anything else. And then just a reminder, our next webinar is in 2 weeks, and that's with Kate Frank regarding how to develop content for either your website, your blog posts, articles, emails. And Kate Frank is an expert in that area, and she's going to show you how to do that from existing content that's out there on the internet, so that can help you to do it in a way that saves you time and helps you to develop and produce much more content for yourself. So be sure to register and join us then. Other than that, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Make it a great day. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.